Hey everybody, this is Carl back again for another TV show spoiler review. And today I'll be covering Loki season 2 that just wrapped up a couple of days ago. And I gotta say, like, in terms of the Disney Plus shows, Loki is by far way up there in terms of like phenomenal show. Just right out the gate with just like the cinematography, the actors, uh I mean, like the practical effects, the special effects, everything was on point. Uh, uh, some might feel like, from what I've heard for a few outliers, that there's, you know, the timey-wimey scientific, thingamajig, doesn't work for a few people, but like I think it fits in terms of what it's been leading up to, because Phase Force, with the end of WandaVision and uh then get into Loki, who arguably set up this whole multiverse saga that we're on, and set up uh Kang, or He Who Remains, who warned Loki in the end of season 1, like, yeah, uh you may not like me, but I'm like the best version of me compared to all the other variants of me who are way worse by leaps and bounds. You do not want to meet them, because honestly, that was probably one of my favorite scenes. Some people didn't care for the whole, the way Jonathan Majors acted out that scene is kind of like very over the top, but I kind of dug it, and I just love him describing how he, about the multiverse of war. It's like, I watch it every once in a while. It's like very well done, very well shot. And it's like, and some scientists theorized the way Kang was describing about the multiverse, they're layered on top of each other. And the theory is that's how it is with the multiverse. Is like, the way we might see it, the different universes are stacked on top of each other. One of his variants met another one of his variants in a different universe, and they swapping technologies and stuff to bear the other. But then, which I admit, it's like, as smart as you guys are, you didn't anticipate the fact that there's gonna be some variants of you out there in the multiverse that are complete psychopaths that might screw things up. So then it spiraled into a multiverse of war, which he who remains managed to be the one on top, and he made this secret timeline and created the TVA, so that way he can avoid branches. That way he can avoid his other variants from getting out, in a sense. But since now that Sylvie killed He Who Remains, now everything is just spiraling. So now we pick up where we left off, where we seem like, oh, like nobody remembers him, or we in a different time. Loki uh uh I can't remember how he got into this whole time slipping thing, but it was very like, like tough to watch. It's like, he was described being born and dying at the same time. And it's like, it's like really intense. Like, oh my God. So he ends up going in and out from future to past, back to present, all over the TVA. And so he seems like going way back in the past before Mobius and the others eventually tried to find 616 Loki in order to deal with Sylvie Loki. At which we still didn't really get an explanation of what was the reason that she was an anomaly that got the TVA to pick her up. That was actually never solved. We still don't know what she did, which is very weird. But Sylvie's probably like the only con that anybody can probably really pick up on. The fact that she is just kind of like just angry for no, I won't say no reason, but just like not want to listen to reason, not want to like be a team player. She's just like just a stick in the mud for the most part, until at least for the first 4 episodes she's just been a total stick in the mud. And I guess some people don't feel like well, what's her purpose in this, in the grand scheme of the team? Because she just pretty much want to hang out at McDonald's in a different universe, and it's like in the 80s, and you know, and it's like cheap product placement, but whatever. I don't know. I kind of think it kind of worked, because after seeing that episode and everybody making fun of it, and then I'm like, kind of wanted McDonald's that day that I watched that episode. But so we meet Ouroboros, OB, played by Ke Huy Quan, who's having like a hell of a time ever since he won his Oscar in Everywhere All at Once. My only thing is, I kind of hope Hollywood doesn't do, is the fact that once an actor is popular like that, someone who haven't been in the limelight for such a long time and coming back, I don't want them just throwing him into every little thing, because it cheapens it. He's a great actor, but utilize him in the right way. I don't want Quan just thrown into stuff that doesn't need to be. Some people point out this, somebody pointed out how like they feel the same way about Millie Bobby Brown, because she was the big star in Stranger Things, and now they just gonna be throwing her at almost every little kind of thing, because she's hot shit right now. And it's like, God, it cheapens their skills as an actor. And it's like, sure, you want them to have work and everything like that, that's all well and good, but it's just that I hope they use some discernment and like pick certain projects that they feel they might be a good fit for and is right for. Don't just it's kind of like Brendan Fraser in Over the Hedge or something like that, something with like crazy animals. Don't just go into something that's like gonna pay cover your bills for a little while kind of situation. It's kind of like, that'd be lame. But he's waiting this as OB. He's like kind of the tech guy who helps create the TVA handbook, which ironically goes into kind of Ouroboros type of thing, where it's like he helped make this handbook and built a lot of stuff in a TVA that he was inspired by Victor Timely, who's a variant of Kang, who was inspired by OB. And so it has a little fun dialogue. It's like, so it's kind of like chicken and egg thing, who came first? So, and it's a cool funny moment where these two meet each other and they ask to sign each other's handbooks. It's very funny. So once Loki finally time slipped back into the present and shows this war council and Mobius this whole hidden wall behind this other wall, he prunes the wall and sees like the face of Kang, and it's like, man, like Loki's Tom Hiddleston's acting is just on such a high level, man. And he just shows like, that's who created TVA. It was him. We're all effed. It's like he's just like losing his mind, because it's like, it's like, what's that movie where it's like, like the restaurant's made out of people. It's made out of people. That kind of thing. I can't remember where I got that from. Maybe it was like a Twilight episode or something. I'm not sure. It's an old, very old thing. I don't know why that's the one thing that's stuck in my head. I don't even know where it comes from. I know it's a reference, but I can't remember to what. I know it's some kind of like, you know, twist type of thing. Some kind of like a bizarre episode or something. I don't know. But it's just like he's losing it. He's like he's trying to tell everybody that, you know, this what's the true nature of the TVA. We're all been lied to. So they use Obi to get Mobius on this deck where this you see this loom where all these multiversal branches keeps like spin to more branches and more branches and more branches, and it's causing like devastation, and eventually it's going to destroy the TVA altogether and all the multiversal timelines altogether. This is going to be just nothing, just straight up nothingness. So first and foremost, we got to stop this time slipping. So they send out a line. It's a funny dialogue between like Mobius and Loki, whereas like difference between like not existing all or living without skin kind of thing, because Mobius has to get on the deck and send the stuff out, and it's like it's a dangerous thing to get out there. He has to wear this big bulky suit. It almost reminds me of the first Fantastic Four movie with Ben Grimm into that little suit thing. He's out collecting the cosmic enhanced flowers or something like that. It's been a while since I've seen the first Fantastic Four movie, but it just reminds me how he's like lugging his way back to the deck and everything like that. It reminds me of that. But the line gets shot out, and since Loki time slipped seemingly into the future, not seemingly, definitely into the future, and he sees Sylvie, which he still has a thing for, still freaking gross that he's like want to F himself pretty much, but he needs to prune himself in the right time, and it's a long shot, but he's walking this long. This is where like some people complain about the dragginess, and I kind of agree. It's like, why are you doing a slow walk knowing that you got to prune? I don't know how he was going to prune himself. He doesn't have any pruning stick, but he had to get back as soon as he get that. There's a little clock thing and gives him like a green light. He got to prune himself in order to anchor himself, so that way he could take himself out of time. But it is like a whole twist thing. It's another Ouroboros thing, where what he ends up getting pruned. We don't see who pruned him, but we all suspect it gotta be him, and it was him. It's just like him further along in the future that finally got to this point and sees himself, and he has to know he has to prune himself in order to send him back. It was a cool moment, but it does take like a long walk just to get distracted by the phone and everything like that. It was like wow, that did take a minute, but didn't really take me out of it. So now they the biggest thing now they got to worry about is fixing the TVA, and they realize, okay, we need like the He Remains essence in order to, because since Miss Minutes gone rogue is with Renslayer. It's a funny one with these two, but we'll get to that in a minute. But the TVA is crumbling little by little, and they need to find Sylvie. And well, the track, because they, a group of rogue TVA agents are trying to pretty much like bomb a lot of timelines here, trying to correct try to save the TVA from crumbling, they got to prune a massive amount of timelines, which, you know, kind of devastating when you think about it. But some people don't feel like, there's a few people who doesn't feel like any weight to it, considering that, like, oh, those are people, they're killing all these people. And it's like, you know, some people say, like, I didn't, you know, feel this way, but some people feel like, oh wow, I don't feel nothing. We don't see them getting destroyed or people losing their lives to the ether or anything like that. So I don't feel nothing, but like, you still feel something because the actors give it some weight to it. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But I actually felt something. It's like, oh my god, because if you keep it along with things since season 1, you feel the gravity a bit. So they tracked down this rogue agent to see what's going on, and he was charged of, I guess, trying to find Sylvie, but he gone rogue, and you know, because after Loki and Mobius and I forgot the black woman's name, I keep forgetting her name, but yeah, they all in the last season explained to everybody, pretty much opened up their eyes about to the entire agency. It's like, we're all variants. Our lives are completely stolen. We were essentially kidnapped and brought to work here, and our minds completely erased by He Who Remains. So now they got this complete revelation. This guy went to a different universe, live out his life as an actor, and they collect him. It's a cool moment where Loki, you know, there's a few times where Loki really showed off, because he, you know, people like Mobius pointed out, like, man, I forget sometimes you're a god. Yeah, like, he's a god of mischief. And it's like, it's fun to see him like trick this dude, and because we all got tricked. He's chasing him down. He's running down this, and first and foremost, why is Loki having to chase anybody? He's a freaking god. I mean, of course, in the TVA, his powers are kind of like cut off, but outside of that, he doesn't need to chase anybody. He can just appear in front of you if he wanted to. And it's like, he doesn't really, and he's got magic on top of that. Because you know, wave your hand and, you know, force pull him back to you. You don't even need to do this whole chase scene in the first place. It's pointless. But you get to see him like utilize his powers. He's running, this agent is running into this crowd thinking he's about to get jumped by a bunch of thugs. But it turns out it's just an illusion. And so Loki chases him down this corner alley, and you see the shadows where these 3 shadows pop up of Loki, and you see the horns protrude. And man, that is so freaking dope. And the shadows just hold on to him. That entire shot was brilliantly done. I love seeing that scene. So they brought him in. You see this interrogation scene where you know, they try to interrogate this guy, but he ends up like, because he's a pro, he ended up like, you know, flipping it on these guys, getting under their skin. And you see, like, you know, Mobius, you know, lose it and smacks this dude. Talking about, like, you know, you're nothing. You don't even bother to see like, who you were and everything like that. And it was a whole thing. It was, you know, very intense. You don't see, Mobius has always been like the chillest dude, and he ends up just, you know, losing it, you know, on this dude. But then Loki, you know, comes in with this machine, and like this little cube thing, which is made of the same material that they use to make these portal doors, so they can go to certain moments in time or multiverse. And he uses to make a cube to, like, he tells him, like, you know what, you're right, I am a villain. And I've been ignoring that, you know, I've been forgetting that. So he's like, I need you to tell me what I need to know. So he's, you know, shrinking a little by little this box until he gets the answers that he needs to where to find Sylvie. And because he's supposed to prune Sylvie, he did not do it because he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm a variant. I want to have my own life. And so they go to this McDonald's, and this dude is agitated, like, I want to go, let's get out of here, let's go. And they don't, what's the rush? They kind of realize this place is about to get pruned, and they go to stop this rogue, officer who's taking all these agents to try to prune a bunch of timelines. They gather them up and stop what they can, but there's still several timelines that was completely erased. So they realize, to fix everything, they need Miss Menace, which is who's with Renslayer. And they go to this because they concoct this plan in order to get Victor Timely, in order to get the TVA agency started, basically like start the process of creating the TVA in the first place. So they take one of the handbooks, because they follow the orders of He Who Remains, slipped it in the doorway of Timely as a kid, go into the future 20 years where he's now in Chicago and showing off this rig. He's pretty much a con man in a way. And somebody pointed out, which I still cannot help but hear now because of this moment, that Victor Timely kind of talks like Bill Cosby. And I was like, now I can't unhear it. It's like, time is infinite. And he got this whole stuttering thing. And it kind of reminds me of Study Mr. Quill from Harry Potter, if you remember that. And it's like a combination of those two things. And now I can't unhear it. But it's a very great performance. Jonathan Majors, which hopefully he finds innocent and he can continue playing as Kang, because he's done a phenomenal job. Like, just stunning work. And he plays different, from all those different Kangs, from the Quantumania, Victor Timely, and He Remains. Like, all of them are different in certain aspects, but they all share like some kind of core aspect. So while Sylvie want to take out Victor Timely because she just wants to let the TVA fall, not realizing the ramifications of what is transpired. She just does not want to hear anything, which is kind of dumb, but she kind of turns around on it when she has the guy dead to rights. But great performance from Jonathan Majors once again, when he's pointing out to her, like, I'm not who you think I am. I'm my own person. Like, I want to make my own choices and all this other stuff. Because and it's like you're dealing with a whole another person. Maybe you got the same face, but this is like a whole different versions of a guy. Just like you and Loki may be a Loki, but you're two different people, lived out two different lives, and you made two vastly different choices in life. And because one, so you cannot lay the blame on this guy because a variant of him kind of screwed up your life, which is something that she's, I guess, held on to this whole time, and ultimately blames him and Renslayer for screwing up her life ultimately, which I'm surprised she just never go back to her own time. No, I think they pruned her time. I guess she wasn't supposed to be there or something. I can't remember. So she ended up sending Renslayer into the end of time with the dead body of He Remains, which is kind of graphic. Oh, and then there's a moment where, like, Miss Menace, Renslayer, and Victor Timely had a moment together, and of course, in the comics, Kang and Renslayer, had romantic involvement with each other because he actually loves Renslayer, at least a version of her that he always had like a thing for. Which, now I'm thinking about it, I really want to do like a review of a Kang miniseries at this whole situation. I really want to like cover that for my next comic book spoiler review. before I get back into the X-Men stuff. Um, Anyway, and then she, catching feelings and mentioning to him how, like, we can, control the TVA together and everything like that. And you see this like subtle little movement of him pulling away, and it's like, no, Kang wants a partner, and you see that with these people at this fair wants to buy his little loom device thing, and it's like, we'll be partners, and it's like, don't think so, kind of thing. He doesn't want partners. He just want to, like, essentially have all the credit in a way. But then, like, Miss Minutes to completely, like, convinces him to dump Renslayer and take off on this little secret lab he has in Wisconsin, and it's a very creepy moment. This creepy AI, it's like, confesses how much, like, she has feelings for him, at least a version of him, and she always wondered why he never made her a body. And he's like, okay, and then he's just grabbed the little remote device to shut her off, and you see her like coming out, like, wait, we can be live. I'm in love. And it's like, that part had me, crying, laughing, and also just in terror, like, oh my god, this creepy little thing to shut her off. Oh wow. But then you get the moment with, like, Renslayer and getting she pushed into, like, the beginning, at the end of time, and then she let Miss Minutes out, and she confesses to Renslayer about her origins, that because he was responsible of wiping her memory, because they were together when they helped create the TVA and stuff like that. But as soon as she left to oversee things, he orchestrated for all the TVA agents to get completely mind wiped, including her. So he can have some anonymity, except for Miss Minutes. Nobody else should know who he really is. So now they got Victor Timely, so they need his essence, because, like, as long as you got at least a variant of him, should still do the same job. So once everything gets orchestrated, they create this device to plug into this the other bigger device out on this platform to connect to the loom in order to widen it a bit, so they can control the flow of all this branching timelines effectively, because they don't want to prune any more people, because now they know, like, the curtain, they know the person behind the curtain now, and so these people actually have lives. They're not, like, just people that are not supposed to be there or anything like that. They so they want to essentially adjust things so that way, if they're branching timelines, they can control it better without taking away anybody's free will. So they the Renslayer and Miss Minutes try to get some reinforcements, but most of the agents, except that actor guy, get killed brutally by Renslayer by putting all of them in a box and squishing it. Which we don't really get to see, which I imagine that's way too graphic even for the new rating for the Disney Plus. But still, though, there's not even like a speck of blood anywhere. But the actor decides to be her little henchman, and they kidnap Timely but since like they realize, oh, Miss Menace is here and she's controlling everything, and we need Timely in order to get everything situated. We need his essence. So since they have to temporarily shut down, kind of like an EMP kind of situation, temporarily shut down the TVA, which will shut down Miss Menace from locking her out of the system, essentially, which leaves like a creepy little message from her before she leaves, where it's like, wait, Victor Timely, there's something I need to tell you. You will never be him. And it's like, that was like a creepy last line as I ever heard one. But Tara Strong is freaking amazing. But then you get see like a cool moment. Like there's certain moments where you play it right. Any of these superhero characters could be played like a freaking villain, if you like a horror movie monster, if you play it in a certain way. Because you see this actor walking down the dark hallway, and now that the TVA agency is like little power dampeners that essentially is surrounding it, that was preventing certain creatures or characters that's being brought from the different timelines into the TVA, can't fight back. Now Loki and Sylvie has full access to their magic powers now, and it's like you hear like Loki's voice echoing into like this dark space. You don't know where he's at, and then Sylvie comes up out from behind, just like mind whammies him, and mind controls him into pruning Renslayer. And they get Victor Timely. Timely steps up to put on a suit to get the device out there to lock it in. But heck of a cliffhanger, where as soon as he steps out the doorway, he turns into pretty much like, spatial spaghetti. That's what people are calling it, or just spaghetti. And everybody just stunned, like, what the heck just happened? And they realize, okay, and like everything just goes and completely obliterates everything. But Loki just time slips into different branching timelines that still are here and there. But he realized that well, we'll get to it, but it's too many timelines branching at this point. But at this juncture, Loki has to find his friends, because ultimately, as he admits to Sylvie later, that he wants to have his friends because he hates being alone. And that's one of the biggest things about Loki, is why he does what he does, or did what he did. The fact that he just doesn't like the idea of being alone. He wants to have friends. So he meets up with OB, like a different variant of OB, who he convinces that, hey, I need your help. We need to find everybody, because they have some kind of essence or something like that he needs in order to like get everything set back up again, so they can try to figure out how to prevent the destruction of the TVA. So you see Mobius finally gets on his little jet ski, which people have been clamoring about for the longest time. He's like a salesman, sells jet skis and other kind of like electronics and stuff. But here's my hang up here. He still didn't get Owen Wilson saying wow at no point. It bugs me. Why? You literally have him and just like, oh my god, just like you don't get him to say wow not one time. It's like it's left it feels unfinished. And it's supposedly this is gonna be like the last season. There's like only 2 seasons of Loki there's gonna be. So there's no more Loki series moving forward, just so you know. But Loki ends up gathering his friends from different points in different times. And you see here, like, movies actually have like two boys, something that he's been avoiding, because he mentioned earlier in other episodes how that he doesn't want, to look into a timeline where he would be, because he doesn't want to know. Ignorance is bliss. He doesn't want that notion rattling in his head while he has a job to do. He doesn't want to be left wondering, or what if, all this other stuff. But now that he's living a life with two boys, two sons, he's living like a happy life. In like a nice big house, considering he's just like a salesman. Like, how much is he getting paid for a house of this magnitude? It's kind of wild. But Loki convinces everybody, gathers together, and Obi conjured up some prototype of a TVA doorway that's kind of glitching all over the place. And he's trying to get Sylvie, but she doesn't want to listen until the world she's in starts to turn to spaghetti, because people think it's more weight to it when everybody got snapped away, turned to dust in Infinity War, as opposed to turning to spaghetti. I think it achieves the same effect. But yeah, I would tend to agree that there's a little bit more weight to it with the ashes. But anyway, hold on, my thing turned off. So, everything starts to like turn spaghetti, and thanks to Obi teaching him about the time slipping and to control it, he's able to go back to the moment before the loom really went out of control and before Victor Timely died. There's a moment where he's pretty much utilizing the whole Groundhog's Day time loop thing, kind of like Doctor Strange, utilizing time looping to your advantage, where he gets OB to teach him everything that he needs to know about, like, physics and time and all this other stuff, so that way he can utilize in order to get everything just right. Took quite a few chances, a lot of fails, a lot of errors, so he knows every little thing that's going to transpire. It took centuries, because he's a god, so of course he can live forever, so it ain't no thing to him. So he literally learned through all this chaos and all this failing and everything like that, and time slipped to the point where he's centuries later. Like, it took a century, not centuries, a century later. So he knows what he needs to know. So he, puts everybody in their right space, gets Timely, put on a suit, get everything, tell him, don't do this, don't do that, don't set it down, watch your step. And then, so he does all that, hits the green button, he does everything correctly, gets back, everybody celebrated. Oh my God, we did it. Did it just right. Oh, yes. But it's not enough. Even though everything is done pitch perfectly, there's too many branches. And as Timely points out, that it's infinite. There's no max. The loom is set to contain like a certain max amount of timelines. And since there's no sacred timeline anymore, and all these branches are, spiraling, there's no end point. As he's pointing out, it's like trying to divide by zero. Can't be done. So that's when you get the coolest moment, where now Loki time slips back to the moment before Sylvie kills He Who Remains, and He Who Remains knew this was about to happen, because it kind of reminds me of the end of season 1, where he's like, see you soon kind of situation. So kind of at that time you're thinking like, oh, he's probably means about his variants going to see you soon, but no, he's probably at this moment like, yeah, I'll see you soon. And so He Who Remains and Loki is having this conversation about like, you know, and He Remains giving this ultimatum. Yeah, like, rule by my side, even though that's not going to work because he doesn't like partners, or kill Sylvie and sit by my side to control what we can, but lose your free will in the process, or let everything die. Those are your options. But Loki, and it's a kind of cool flex on Loki's part, where He Remains unfreezes Sylvie, but he tells him like, you know, I'll wait till you come back until you're ready to have this conversation again. And Loki, in a sweet move, just like switch, you know, pauses Sylvie himself, and he just like tells He Remains, what makes you think we had this? We didn't already have this conversation already? Boom. And it's like, yeah, and like he Remains didn't have to say much. He just like, it's like, game recognized, game. Bravo, sir. And so he left this as ultimatum, but Loki found a third option where he is like, goes back. I mean, because he first went to like Sylvie, and you know, essentially trying to like, because you're thinking at first like, okay, like the best course of action maybe to kill her, and he probably essentially try to ask her for permission so he doesn't feel horrible about what he's considering. But you know, she was like convinced. I mean, in a way, the way the dialogue went, and the way I interpret it, she probably inspired him to find like a third option. So he decides to go back to the moment before the loom is destroyed, and he walks out there, shuts the door behind so nobody can stop him, and which I'm surprised he didn't turn spaghetti, but maybe it's just his, you know, level of power. He then, his clothes starts peeling away, and he formed this cool ass outfit. This, the art and the cinematography, everything is working in this moment, like just like, you know, just done incredible shots here. So then you get the Loki horns, and it's like, you know, it's like you can feel the weight on him, and it's this gigantic horns out there. And so he uses power to just destroy Loom himself. So all these strands of timelines are just like, you know, just kind of crumbling as they're getting weaker. But then Loki grabs strands after strand after strand and infuses it with power, and he starts gathering them up and walking through this doorway to the end of time at this chair. And you see this like cool shot where he's sitting on this throne. He finally get the throne. Like in the past, he probably always wanted a throne, but now at that time he didn't deserve it because he wanted it. Now that he doesn't want it, he has to take the burden. It's the burden of glorious purpose, as it's put, where it's like, I have to sit on this throne, monitor everything myself, keep everything alive, but I have to be alone. And because he's had this discussion with Mobius in like a previous time, where it's like, and Mobius tells him, it's like, there's no about the time how he had to, you know, him and Renslayer was partners, and he hesitated on pruning this young kid, where he didn't feel like like this, how this young kid will cause this kind of devastation uh, because of branching off thing, and it causes like a devastation. And it was Renslayer who had to prune the kid, and that's why he got, you know, taken out the field in the first place. And so he tells Loki that there's no comfort in this. You just decide what burden you will choose to live with. And so this moment is what burden that Loki chooses to live with. The fact that as long as his friends are alive, living out their time the way they choose, he will just take the burden of monitoring everything himself and keeping everything together. And you see that as he's gathering them up, and it's like it's twisting in a way that look like Yggdrasil tree. And it's kind of very cool looking display here. And it's, you know, these giant green strands turn to this big green tree in a way. So Mobius is like gonna pretty much like, you know, like just retire. He wanna just, you know, go off and observe his variant raising his kids, or just, I'm not sure, he just wants to live out a life. He doesn't want to do this job anymore. But before he goes, he hands B13, that's her name, to this file about a variant of Kang in Earth 616 adjacent, which is the, you know, quantum realm. It's like there was a situation with a Kang, but it looks like they handled it already. So it's like nice little callback to Quantumania, even though most people don't care for that movie. Nice little tie-in to that. And so and that's pretty much it. No end credit. Oh, Renslayer seemingly gets you know, taken out by Alioth, but who knows? We don't see Alioth. The way I interpret it is like she's just, you know, not gonna scream or, you know, whatever. She just accepts her fate. But some people suspect that maybe it's, a Kang might save her at the last minute. Who knows? And a lot of people theorize, which I at first would have theorized, that, you know, this is the moment where Loki turns into the god of stories, which in the comics is where he is. He's the god of stories, where he can control what is written, and he can either easily write people out of existence or create people. It just does a lot of things. I forgot what story that transpired in, but it was at least, you know, a few years ago where this transpired. But other people pointed out, which I had to look it up, that is more akin to the custodian of the multiverse. And I'm not sure, never heard of this character before. It's a very deep cut type of character, where in the Marvel comics, there's this guy here. I'll make sure I've got 2 slides here for you guys. There's this guy called Atlas, not Atlas with the AS, but Atlas as EZ, where this green dude sitting on this chair, where he monitors all of the multiverse to keep it from falling into an abyss. But he ends up dying, and there's an Atliza, a little girl who pretty much takes up his mantle, and she takes over of monitoring the multiverse. So I mean, you can easily look it up, but yeah, there's a character called the Custodian of the Multiverse in Marvel Comics, and I believe that they could easily merge the 2 characters. It's probably not unheard of from the MCU to merge 2 different things simultaneously, because they both technically work. You know, Loki can be the god of stories while at the same time monitoring the multiverse like Atlas. So yeah, I think, you know, it's a good combination of the 2, because I like, you know, Loki being the god of stories as well, but Custodian of the Multiverse is a very deep cut, and you know, it tracks to what Loki is actually doing. He's monitoring everything to make sure it doesn't fall into the multiverse doesn't fall into the abyss, and he's controlling everything to make sure people live out their lives freely. And it's like that's his burden that he's choosing to live with. He's alone, sitting on this chair, and I kind of hope, because I think Tom Hiddleston, might not want to play Loki anymore, but maybe we'll see him one last time for Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, because they need to square that circle with him and Thor, because Thor is at a certain point after Love and Thunder that these two need to have like a final understanding as brothers, and we need to have that. And there'll be a cool moment more than likely in Secret Wars that might occur. And I kind of hope like they don't give up on Jonathan Majors. I actually do personally believe he's innocent. Hopefully things pan out well, because I don't want a whole nother James Gunn situation where they just toss him aside, where DC will easily can pick him up and utilize him to great detail, because he's a great actor. So I want him to continue on with Kang. I don't want them to just jump the gun and just decide, oh, let's pivot to excuse me. Let's pivot to Doctor Doom and let's go with that. And it's like, what if that actor who who plays Doctor Doom gets in some kind of weird trouble that's probably going to be nonsense? A lot of actors is going to end up with some kind of issue. You just going to have to ride it out until the courts say otherwise, and then go from there. I think he'll be vindicated, hopefully. I don't know when that trial or whatever is that's going to finally wrap up. But yeah, I like the way we're doing with Kang. At the very least, if push comes to shove, you can just Don Cheadle this thing and just get like a different actor to take up the role and still continue on with Kang, because you pretty much put all your eggs in one basket for this character to be like the next big bad of this multiversal saga, for up until the point of Secret Wars. So Doctor Doom, great villain, but by and large, he's not a Avengers level threat. He gets beat by 4 people all the time. It doesn't really take an entire Avengers crew of every superhero across the globe in order to deal with somebody like that, in my opinion. Anyway, man, this is a great show, honestly. Aside from a few hiccups, like I think Sylvie's probably like the biggest hiccup in my opinion, because she honestly doesn't add much to anything. You pretty much like kind of let certain moments drag because of her. She has her moments, but like by and large, she's kind of stubborn and she doesn't want to listen to reason. It doesn't make any sense what she's doing. But once again, got a character like Doctor Strange utilizing that time loop thing to full effect. Usually that kind of thing happens to a character and not for a character, and I think that's very well done. And unlike most people, I like the multiversal saga. I'm not gonna get tired of it, because it's one of those things that I can talk about that kind of stuff all day long. It's a very fascinating theory that I would like have dialogue about to the ends of the earth. Is very fascinating to me. But yeah, I give Loki season 1 maybe like an 8.5 out of 10. Is very well done. Just slightly better than, only slightly better than Loki season 1, but there's people out there who thinks like this could easily be like a season 1 and season 2 should be just one long season altogether. But I like the way we have it. It's very well done, very well shot. Like I said, actors are just top notch. Everybody just came in to work and they're having fun. The chemistry of everybody is just phenomenal. But yeah, man, it's great. Highly recommend it. Been waiting a couple of days to talk about this, but finally got it out. Let me know what you guys think of Loki season 2. And do you think he's like the god of stories, or do you actually think he's more of the custodian of the multiverse? Because I actually think he's a combination of the two. But yeah, and I kind of wish, hopefully, I understand. Like, I think Tom Hiddleston had like a great run with this character, and at some point, I just want to get off this kind of project after 10 years of going through a particular character. Really not a full 10 years, like, you know, they in every little thing for 10 years straight, but it's just like a good, you know, lengthy of time with a particular character. I think for those veterans, I think either Endgame or Secret Wars will be a good jumping off point for the veteran actors. It will be a good jumping off point. Not in the middle of a saga, in my personal opinion. I think like until like a saga ends, that's where you can feel like, okay, I can do this for one more decade, then I'm done. Or this is the final decade, I'm done with it. You know, I can't, you know, do kind of thing, certain things anymore, or I want to work on other projects. I don't want to commit to a sole thing, that kind of stuff. I think, yeah, I mean, like Tom Hiddleston, I'm not sure how his contract is set up, but it's just like, yeah, I think he had a great run. He doesn't need to be in every little thing, but I think he needs to show up in Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, because I think that's kind of prudent given the fact that he kind of set up the multiversal saga with Kang. So it kind of makes sense. It all ends with Kang and him. But anyway, I will see you guys in a few minutes as I cover the Marvels spoiler review. So I'll see you all in a bit.